friend, my name is Doombabe and today we're going to be talking about Pyrite Heart, which is an indie otome visual novel that was created by Winged Cloud and released on Steam in 2014. It tells the story of Ahri Remono, an arrogant princess that is challenged by her brother who says she wouldn't fare well outside of the luxurious walls and comfort of the Imperial Palace. This is where she learns that life isn't all that fun out in the real world. Ahri soon finds herself in a rivalry with the student body president, forming friendships with the palace servant Kenta, and taking the peasant world by storm while still being a normal teenager. The very first thing I noticed about Pyrite Heart is that there's no build-up whatsoever. The game starts out with Ahri getting into a fight with her brother, and then like 60 seconds later she's making the decision to attend a normal high school for a week. And that's pretty much how the entire story went. Running goalpost to goalpost, which is something that new writers tend to do, doesn't even begin to cover it. The story for Pyrite Heart, it had a pacing that was... The only word that really describes it is just completely overwhelming. It was just one thing after another with no fleshing out the characters, no building up the story, no presenting the story properly. And really, Pyrite Heart, to say the least, it was very disorienting to play because it just really felt like everything was being thrown at you at once. What was weird though was when I went back for the multiple playthroughs to get all of, I believe, 6 endings, I found that I was beginning to appreciate the characters more and more. I didn't really appreciate Ahri because, let's be honest, she was about as deep as a rain puddle in the middle of the desert. But when it came to the other characters, I found myself caring more for the other characters and the story. But even then, that only seemed to start happening on like my 3rd or 4th playthrough. Also, a mosquito bit me and it's super itchy. Which, when it comes to the other playthroughs, I do want to point out that even though there are multiple routes, a lot of the scenes are written the exact same way with only minute differences to sort of like fit the character that it's being written around. There were scenes that may have been omitted based off of what character you're in, and of course, what? And you know, of course, there were scenes that were just totally unique to one character, but for the most part, there were a lot of scenes that the only differences made were just a few lines here and there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that on the first run, Pyrite Heart isn't that good, but on the 2nd or 3rd playthrough, it gets a little better. That being said, I really hate dating simulators that just stop at like the first kiss, and I know a lot of dating sims do that, even though I don't really know if this would count as a dating sim. It's really just, you know, semantics. But throughout the story, there's the whole class difference. You know, they talk about that a lot with Ahri being a princess, and both Ryu and Kenta being commoners or peasants or whatever word they decided to use. So that's constantly sort of looming over Ahri's head, and it plays a pretty big part in the story. So seeing the story just stop once Ahri kisses whatever dude she gets with, without really showing how the family reacts, was kind of a letdown. Really, if we're totally honest, all of the endings felt completely abrupt. As mentioned earlier, there are multiple endings, so there is a fair amount of choices that you're given throughout the game. I believe there were 6 endings, and each character had 5 or 6 choices within their routes that would get you to one of those endings. I was actually relatively surprised when the route with Ryu had like 4 or 5 options if you were to take him up on his history challenge, because I had no damn clue who decided to use the term Axis powers first. Like, it wasn't just a moment where I had to pick be nice or be mean or appeal to what character or blah 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 blah, something that was like super obvious. No, I actually had to use my brain for a second. I failed, but I was impressed. After that moment though, there were a lot of times where I wish there were more moments like that, especially when it came to the cooking parts of the story, which was actually a pretty big element to the story. Because the whole thing was that Ryu and Ahri had a challenge where they had to bake the best cake at the end of the week. So with Ahri being completely incompetent in the kitchen, I wished that we were given options to sort of like just being able to pick, you know, an ingredient, how much of an ingredient to add, and blah 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 blah. I guess that would kind of turn it into like a cooking simulator though. But still, while we were given a lot of choices to make in the like short time frame of an hour, I do wish that they were a little more involving, like with the history quiz. This was a beautifully made game, and I really don't think I have any real complaints. Even in full screen, the lines were smooth and clean, and I didn't experience any issues with pixelated edges. There was also just enough detail in the hair and clothing for this to feel like it was of really high quality. I have to especially praise the character design, which, while generally unremarkable, the creators took time to give the characters slight variations in their uniforms, such as Kenta wearing what looked like a hoodie under his blazer. The world design I was all but blown away by, because you guys know that I am pretty damn critical when it comes to the backgrounds used. But the backgrounds were so lovely in Pyrite Heart that I have to give credit where it's due. The coloring and shading was just absolutely on point. There was detail exactly where it needed to be. The backgrounds all had a three-dimensional feel. The world was bright and colorful. It meshed beautifully with the sprites, and for all intents and purposes, it was perfect. The only bone I have to pick with Pyrite Heart, just for the sake of being a difficult reviewer, is the lack of sprites. Each character seemed to only have maybe 2 or 3 poses, so when there was a shift in mood, you had to be paying a lot of attention to their facial expressions, which sometimes only changed very subtly. That really is it though. Other than that, the game is virtually visually flawless. So all in all, Pyrite Heart, which was very visually appealing and had a beautiful soundtrack, was something of a letdown. This entirely had to do with how rushed and short the story was, because really the story was over in like an hour of gameplay. If the characters had taken the time to flesh out the characters, you know, add some sort of build up, not just kind of run goalpost to goalpost and just throw events in your face, it would have been a lot better. Like really, if there was just some sort of development, I have no doubt in my mind that this would have been an absolutely stellar game, especially since it's only like $5. As it stands though, if someone expressed any interest in purchasing Pyrite Heart for themselves, I would definitely suggest waiting for it to go on sale like I did, because I think I bought it during the Steam winter sale and it was only about like $2.50. But I can't really help but wonder why Steam required you to verify your age, because I played through all of the endings and there wasn't even remotely any shred of adult content. So that was kind of confusing. Like, I don't even really think there was a cheeky joke in there. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Pyrite Heart. Have you played it? Did you go for the doting Kenta or the competitive Ryu? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, you can find all of my social media as well as my Patreon in the description. Happy unbirthday, and I will see— oh, by the way, I decided to record this at nighttime just to sort of like play with my camera a bit. Let me know if you prefer it during the day, like how I normally do reviews, or if you like it better at night, or if you just don't give a shit. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!